Hello guys, and welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be picking one player from every single NHL team that I think is having a career year. Now, I did miss a couple NHL teams, I'm going to be honest. There were a few teams that I could not find a player having a career year for, but overall I found one for most NHL teams. And yeah, for those of you who do not know what a career year is when you think that a player is having the best year that they will ever be able to achieve in their entire career and the best year that they have ever achieved in their entire career. So let's get into it. I randomized the order because I always feel bad for Winnipeg. They're always last. But in this video, they are not, as I randomized the order. But we're going to go straight into this, starting off with a team that actually usually always ends up being one of the first teams in alphabetical order. And that is the Boston Bruins. And from the Boston Bruins, I have gone with centerman Charlie Coyle. Charlie Coyle in 70 games has 15 goals, 25 assists for 40 points. And it's not that these totals are insane, but they're a little bit better than what he has achieved in the past, and I just don't see him being capable of achieving these numbers again. And the reason is, he was slowing down the last few years, and this year he's really bounced back. But you have to think that Boston's going to be fixing their top six centerman problem because they need a second line center. And if next season they still want to be able to push for that playoff spot because their team's getting older, they're going to want to fix that. And that bumps Charlie Coyle down another slot. And Boston already does not have very good center depth. So Charlie Coyle being pushed down again puts him with even worse wingers, and I cannot see him managing to pull off these numbers again. Again, not that they're amazing, and it wouldn't shock me the most if he did, but I just don't see it. But now on to the next team, and that is the Seattle Kraken. And the Seattle Kraken are actually one of the teams that I could not find a single player for. Seattle, an expansion team, and they just have had a really disappointing year, and there's not one player on that team who I can look at and say, yeah, they're having an amazing year. Like Philip Grubauer has been horrible, but he wouldn't have had a career year anyway. He's been good before, but there's just not a player that I can say is having a career year. But now on to another team that would normally be pretty early, and that is the Buffalo Sabres. And from the Buffalo Sabres, I have gone with one that I might actually take back. I might take it back if I did this again, but it is right winger Tage Thompson. And I know what you're saying. Tage Thompson, he's 24. He's really broken out this year. Yes, I'm a huge Buffalo fan, but I'm worried that this is a career year and Tage Thompson will not be able to remake these numbers consistently again. Now, I do have hope that he will be able to, but it just really makes me nervous, and I have him on this list because you never know, right? In 67 games, 31 goals, 24 assists for 55 points, and again, very good totals. I really hope he can recreate them, but I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure. But now moving on to another team that is actually pretty early normally when I go in alphabetical order. So it's kind of funny that this randomizer really did nothing except for Seattle. But I'm going to be moving on to the Anaheim Ducks. And from Anaheim, I have gone with right winger Troy Terry. Troy Terry in 64 games this season has 31 goals, 26 assists for 57 points. And he is leading the Anaheim Ducks in points and goals and has just been absolutely fantastic this season. I think Troy Terry was way above a point per game very early, got off to an extremely hot start, has slowed down a bit overall, but still producing at a very good rate, and I do think this is the highest point totals that he will ever produce. I'm not saying he won't be a good player for years to come, because I think he will, but I think these points are definitely elevated by that extremely hot start that Troy Terry got off to. But now moving on to the Carolina Hurricanes, and from the Carolina Hurricanes, I have gone with goaltender Frederik Andersen. And what's interesting with Frederik Andersen is that he is having a career year at the old age of 32 for his whole year, and coming off of a horrible season as well. Last year was not a good season, injuries-wise, play-wise, everything went wrong for him. But in 48 games, he has a .926, and it is definitely the best save percentage that he has put up in his career. And it's not really crazy close. I mean, he's put up like a .919, .918, but he's been really good in Carolina, and only a 2.07 goals against average. That says a little bit more to the team as well. But Frederik Andersen has been amazing this year, and him getting older, and I just don't see him being able to reproduce these numbers. But now moving on to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and from the Tampa Bay Lightning, I picked the left winger Ross Colton. Ross Colton in 66 games has 14 goals, 16 assists for 30 points, which is pretty solid. You know, last year he was putting up like fourth line numbers, and this year he's actually been putting up a lot better numbers. But here's the thing you also have to notice. He only has 12 minutes and 40 seconds of ice time a game, and he is putting up these numbers. Now, Ross Colton, I think he's a good player. I think he's been good and is part of a good line of young players that he's on that Tampa Bay team. But I do not see him being able to continue putting up these numbers. I think he's just having a good year, and especially considering like this might actually go well. The reason in the future he could be putting up better numbers is that maybe he gets more ice time and more opportunity, because the amount of points he's put up in a little bit of ice time is amazing. But I just don't see him being able to reproduce this again. But now on to the New York Islanders, and from the New York Islanders, I actually did not find anyone. The Islanders, a team that's disappointing this season, don't have many young players, and nobody is really playing above expectations or having a career year. A lot of underperforming players, but no really overperforming players that I don't think. No players really having a career year. But now on to the Calgary Flames. And from the Calgary Flames, a player having a career year, I have gone with defenseman Rasmus Andersson. And Rasmus Andersson in 69 games has 4 goals, 38 assists for 42 points, and he has completely turned his offense up another level. For years, he's been solid. It's not like he's been a bad defenseman, but offense has turned up a ton. And I don't know where this came from. I don't know how. I have no idea. But he is having a fantastic year, and it's not just offensively, it's defensively as well. He's really been a big part of this Calgary team and a big reason they are where they are. But ain't no way he's keeping these offensive numbers up next year. But now moving on to the San Jose Sharks. And from the San Jose Sharks, I have gone with left winger, who may have been claimed off wingers, Alexander Barabanov. And if Barabanov was claimed off waivers, what a claim by the San Jose Sharks. Because I think he might have been, if I'm being honest. But Barabanov in 61 games has 10 goals, 27 assists for 37 points. And he has been very good and playing some top line minutes for them. In that top 6 minutes. He's been playing with good players and has really elevated his game to match those good players, hence why his point totals are higher. The thing with Barabanov is if you look before he went to San Jose, his numbers were not very good, and ever since he's been to San Jose, his numbers have definitely been elevated a bit, but I just don't see Barabanov is that top 6 forward, and I think that he will end up going down to maybe some more like earthly numbers, like third line numbers for Barabanov next year. But now moving on to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and from the Columbus Blue Jackets, I have gone with centerman Boone Jenner. Boone Jenner this season has really turned up his goal scoring a ton because in 59 games, he has 23 goals, 21 assists for 44 points, and normally Boone Jenner is a guy who is a third line player but is a real good leader in the room, and this year again playing top 6 minutes, getting those good points, and really the reason I think that he will not be able to continue this is because Columbus is in a state where they are kind of rebuilding. Boone Jenner is probably getting more ice time, more opportunity than he would in another place, and although he has definitely used that opportunity well, I see him going back to where he was before, being that third line leader guy and stepping back into sort of what he was. But this year has been a fantastic year for Boone Jenner. I just don't see him being able to continue this. But now moving on to the Ottawa Senators, and I feel like the Ottawa Senators have one of the more obvious players who I could pick on this list, because from the Ottawa, I have picked right winger Drake Batherson. Drake Batherson in 36 games has 14 goals, 24 assists for 38 points, so he is over a point per game right now. And yes, he's only 23, so he could theoretically definitely hold these because he's not very old, but Batherson is just having too good of a year right now that I think he can keep going. Like, I think that next year he'll be very solid, be able to be like a 60-70 point guy. Who knows, maybe, I don't know, 60-70 points, but I would be shocked if he managed to keep these point totals up. And honestly, Ottawa might need him to keep these point totals up if they want to have playoff chances next year, but I just don't see it happening. Drake Batherson having a great year, and I still think he will be a great player, but this great, not quite. But now on to the St. Louis Blues, and from the St. Louis Blues, I have gone with centerman Ivan Barbashev. Ivan Barbashev, a third line forward for years, has absolutely broken out this year at the age of 26 because in 68 games, he has 27 goals, 27 assists for 49 points. And I've liked Ivan Barbashev for a while, but I did not see this coming. I did not see these point totals coming at all. And Barbashev's really been playing some crucial top 6 minutes for the St. Louis Blues, but I just don't see him being able to keep up the pace that he has put up this season. But now moving on to the Dallas Stars, and from the Dallas Stars, I have gone with nobody. Dallas is another team that I just could not find a player who I think is having a career year. You know, a lot of players, like their star players, they're not playing very good. Jason Robertson, he's going to be like this for years to come, I think. So, nobody for Dallas. And on to Toronto, I also found nobody from Toronto. So, 2 teams in a row that I couldn't find anybody for. Like, I didn't want to lie. I can't pick a player who's not having a career year and throw him in here. But I didn't think anybody was having a career year in Toronto. And you may ask, what about Michael Bunting? Michael Bunting's been fantastic playing with Marner and Matthews for the most part, and I think he's going to be able to keep up these offensive numbers, especially if he is still playing with Marner and Matthews next season. But now on to a team that I finally got someone for, and that is the Winnipeg Jets. And the Winnipeg Jets, I kind of had to go the cheap one because I did not want to go with a third nobody in a row. I really did not want to, but I went with left winger Evgeny Svechnikov. Evgeny Svechnikov, the worst of the 2 Svechnikov brothers, but still has had a pretty solid NHL season this year, where in 60 games he has 6 goals, 12 assists for 18 points, and really Svechnikov has been a solid fourth liner for Winnipeg. Now the problem is, I don't know if he's capable of being a NHL forward consistently, because for years the conversation for Svechnikov is he has not been able to get a job in the NHL, and he gets traded, a change of scenery to Winnipeg, and has really been able to fit in there well and be able to fit into their bottom six. But I just don't know if he's capable of doing this for the next couple of years. And it's kind of sad for me to say that this could be a career year because it's not like great stats, but maybe he can maintain this and maintain a good NHL position, but I just don't see it happening. But we'll see. But now onto the Florida Panthers, and the Florida Panthers are actually the team that have the player that inspired this entire video concept. So you can thank this player for this video, and that is left winger Mason Marchment. Mason Marchment was in the Vincent Trocheck trade, I believe, and at the time that looked like a not great trade at all for Florida. Or like not horrible, but definitely not good, and it has turned into a great trade for Florida, as everything has, because man, Bill Zito has done wonders for that team. But Mason Marchment in 45 games has 15 goals, 25 assists for 40 points, and this is coming off a year where he didn't really do much. You know, he was showing he's a fourth line guy, put up some okay totals, and he has been absolutely dominating the season. And the reason I think that he will not have, like, there's no way he puts up these point totals again, is because right now on a Florida team that has very deep in offense, he's playing with some very good line mates. And not that he hasn't been good, because obviously he has been amazing, but he's also been playing with very good line mates, and his offensive totals as of recently has also dropped a little bit. I remember when he was like 5 points above a point per game, and now he's about 5 points below. Again, still a very good season, still playing very good, but I would be absolutely shocked if he managed to put these points up again next season. But now on to the New Jersey Devils, and now that we've had a couple teams in a row where I could find a player, I think it's a good time to take a break, because from New Jersey I could not find anybody. New Jersey not having a great year, still trying to find their way out of the rebuild, and there was really no player who I think is having a career year. Jesper Bratt has gotten more ice time this year. I could see him putting up these numbers for years to come, but yeah, nobody from New Jersey. But now on to Colorado Avalanche, and we go from a team that inspired the last time I found a player to another team that has inspired me to make this video. And that player on this team who partly inspired this video is Nazem Kadri. Nazem Kadri has an amazing season. I remember when there were people talking about him being in the Hart conversation. That has obviously gone away, definitely gone away. He's slowed down a bit, but still in 65 games, 26 goals, 57 assists for 83 points. And really the question I have for Colorado is, like, what do you give him, you know? And tell me in the comments, what do you think Kadri should get on his next contract? Because he had an amazing hot start. And not that he's been good and not good, or not that he's been not good in the second half, but he's definitely slowed down a little bit. And I'm just wondering, how many years and what would you give him? Because I'm curious to see what Colorado does end up doing with Kadri and what Kadri does do in the offseason. But Kadri, again, having an absolutely phenomenal season this year. Definitely a career year. Normally like a 60, 50-point guy. This year, absolutely fantastic. And obviously, I do not see him reproducing these numbers. But now we are going to grab a new page, because we're going to be moving on to the next team. I was confused because never mind. Now we're going to be moving on to the next team, and this is another team that is pretty obvious to me, and that is the Nashville Predators. And the player that I've gone is defenseman Roman Josi. I would like to give a quick honorable mention to Philip Forsberg, having a contract year and having a very good year, but I could not pick him over Roman Josi, who as a defenseman in 67 games has 19 goals, 65 assists for 84 points, and is on pace to have over 100 points this season. I have never ever lived to have a defenseman get even close to 100 points. And by close, I mean, like, 80, 90. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen... It's been an entire lifetime, actually, since I've seen a defenseman. It's been never since I've seen a defenseman get 100 points in a season. Like, Roman Josi having an amazing season. Even he had a 3-point night last night, too. This guy is going to get there. And Roman Josi, although if you had to ask me who's the best defenseman overall, I'll pick Cale Makar just overall right now, but just overall. But as this season, I would definitely pick Roman Josi, and I think he should 100% win the Norris Trophy. But there's no way. Roman Josi, very good defenseman, no way he reproduces at this rate. It's absolutely insane, and it has to be a career year. But now on to the Washington Capitals, right? Yeah, and from the Washington Capitals, I have gone with nobody. There was really nobody I could find on the Washington Capitals who is having a career year. That's really all I have to say. There was not really much underperforming, just no really career years on Washington. But now on to Montreal, and from Montreal, I have a player who they acquired on waivers, and what a waiver pickup, and it is Rem Pitlick. Rem Pitlick in 54 games has 13 goals, 19 assists for 32 points, and has really been very good for Montreal this season. But what we're forgetting is he was also very good for Minnesota, and his shooting percentage this season is at 25%. He is shooting extremely high rate, at pretty much like every shot at one point. At the start, it's gone down a bit, but at the start of the season, it was at 50%. That means every second shot he's taking is going in the net. And I'm looking at my hockey net right there. Bam! Every second shot, scoring all the time. And because of that, because of his high shooting percentage and the amount of ice time he's getting on Montreal right now would be higher than an average team because Montreal is terrible this season. I don't see Rem Pitlick being able to continue these types of points. Although, if Montreal does not improve much next season and Rem Pitlick stays there, I could potentially see him doing pretty well. But I do still think this is a career year for him. But now on to the Minnesota Wild. And from the Minnesota Wild, I have gone with right winger Ryan Hartman. Ryan Hartman, in 69 games, has 27 points. Nope, that would not be a career year, although it kind of was for Evgeny Svechnikov. Has 27 goals, 26 assists for 53 points. And Hartman really should say thank you to the coach for putting him on Kaprizov and Zuccarello's line, according to Daily Faceoff. But him playing with these two players has definitely elevated his numbers a lot. And I'm not going to take away credit from Hartman because he's definitely played well and elevated his game in order to play with those players. But come on, he's playing with Zuccarello and Kaprizov. By the way, Zuccarello was the other player I was thinking of having a career year for Minnesota because he is also playing pretty solid. But Ryan Hartman having a very good year, and I just do not see him, as I do with all these players, being able to reproduce this. But now on to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we're getting on a roll here because we got 3 teams in a row now who I've been able to find a player for. And with Pittsburgh, I chose a guy who's actually slowed down a lot in the second half of the season, almost come to a halt, and that is Evan Rodrigues. And even though Rodrigues has pretty much come to a halt point-wise, this year is still a pretty good amount better than previous years. In 71 games, he has 18 goals, 23 assists for 41 points. And Rodrigues, throughout Malkin's injury, Rodrigues was playing in the top 6, and he was like a point per game pretty much. But then Malkin came back, he got bumped down to the 3rd line, I assume, or 4th line, I don't know where he went. Bottom 6. He went from top 6 to bottom 6. Halt. No more points. So Rodrigues, those 41 points, a lot of them came early in the season, and his overall point totals this year, although they may be solid, next year I don't see him being able to put near this amount of points. And I'm also curious to see, like Kadri, who had a good start in a slow, and by slow I mean a point per game, from 2 points per game to a point per game. I'm curious to see what they do with Rodrigues in the offseason because I think he's on an expiring contract as well. But now on to the Chicago Blackhawks. It's time for a break. I could not find anyone. Only people playing about up to expectations, or players who I think are not having a career year, or players who are definitely underperforming. So nobody for Chicago. But now on to the Detroit Red Wings. And from the Detroit Red Wings, I have gone with left winger Tyler Bertuzzi. Tyler Bertuzzi, 58 games, 26 goals, 28 assists, 454 points, and has really had his best offensive season by far this season. The last couple seasons for him, he's had like 40 points in 70 games. Obviously, last season he got off to a good start, got injured pretty quickly. But this season, he's really carried off that good start from the season prior to this season and played really solid. And he's another player who got off to a really good start, but he hasn't really slowed down as much. And Bertuzzi, I don't know. I don't know what it is about him. I think that this year is just, all I have to say really is I just think this year's a career year. I think he'll still be good, maybe not go as low as he was before, but not as high as he is right now. And on to the Philadelphia Flyers. And from Philadelphia, I've gone with a 3rd liner, or 2nd liner. I think he's playing on the 2nd line right now, and that is centerman Scott Laughton. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, but this guy, who's Laughton, has in 55 games, has 11 goals, 17 assists for 28 points, which is a pretty solid year offensive for him. And Philadelphia, obviously, a team that has a lot of injuries and a team that is underperforming a lot. And Laughton being on the 2nd line with some pretty good players, I think elevates his numbers. So next year, when things go back to normal, I just don't expect them to be able to produce these kinds of numbers again. But now, onto the last few teams. We are now only 6 teams away from me finishing this whole video. But the 6th last team, I have the New York Rangers, and from the Rangers, a pretty obvious one again, and that is Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider this year in 71 games has 47 goals, 20 assists for 67 points, and he is going to hit 50. I would be very surprised if he's not going to hit 50. Sadly, not going to break the power play goals record, but definitely scoring a lot of power play goals. He has 25 power play goals, so a stud on the power play. I don't know what he does. I think he's just the net front guy, but obviously does a good job of that. And Chris Kreider, there's no way. And it's funny because last season they signed that $6 million contract, and 2 years ago now, and last season it did not look very good. He had a bit of a slow year, but this season definitely bounced back, and maybe bounced back a little too much because next year I don't see him being able to do this again. I mean, I guess you can't really bounce back too much, but now on to the LA Kings. And from the LA Kings, I have gone with centerman Trevor Moore. Trevor Moore in 72 games has 13 goals, 28 assists for 41 points, and has really been a solid piece to that LA Kings team and a big contribution to why they are in the playoffs. And Moore, as solid of a season he's having, the last few years, this is definitely an outlier, and really all I have to say is I just don't think that he's going to be able to do this again. But now moving on to the Arizona Coyotes. And from the Arizona Coyotes, I have gone with centerman Travis Boyd. Travis Boyd in 62 games has 13 goals, 16 assists for 29 points, and has really had a good bounce back this year. Because last year, you know, he played for the Vancouver Canucks, and it was just a really rough time for him, and he hadn't really shown any consistent offense prior to that rough time as well. But this year, consistent offense, and I think it definitely has to do with Arizona being as bad of a team they are. The main reason I think this is a career year is the amount of opportunity he's getting. He has been pretty much the first line center for Arizona throughout the season. And that, like, again, that just shows you how bad Arizona is. And next year, maybe he manages to put up these points, but if, like, he's been a bit slower lately, but next year, if he can get as much ice time and as much opportunity as he has so far this season, and he has signed that 2-year deal with Arizona, so he definitely could, then it's possible that he puts these numbers up again. But I just don't see it. I think that this year is just a career year, and I think his recent slow streak kind of shows it. But now moving on to my favorite team, the Edmonton Oilers. And the Edmonton Oilers, I did not find anybody who's having a career year. Edmonton, you know, a lot of players are, I don't think anybody's necessarily having a really bad year other than maybe Nurse below expected, but there's nobody's really playing above expectations. Everybody's been playing pretty much as expected before the season, so really that's that. But now on to the Vancouver Canucks, the team I chose to wear the jersey for. And from Vancouver, I picked 29-year-old centerman JT Miller. Why did I say that age? I have no idea. I had it written down and I was just reading it. But JT Miller in 68 games has 29 goals, 33 assists. That is not 53 assists. I'm like, there's no way. 29, 33. That's not 82. 29, 53, 82 points in only 68 games, like I said. And Miller has proven time and time again in Vancouver that he's a very good player. He's been hovering around a point per game the previous 2 seasons before this, but this season he has been on a whole new level. And that level I do not think is sustainable. Miller, been fantastic. Again, fantastic. There's no way that he can keep up this point pace that he's been on as of recent. But now onto the last team in this entire list, and that is the Vegas Golden Knights. And the funny part is the last 2 teams are Vancouver and Vegas, who are both normally one of the last teams on the alphabetical order lists. But they end up here again. The randomizer, again, failing to randomize, I guess. But from Vegas, I went with centerman Chandler Stephenson. Chandler Stephenson, something like that. In 68 games, has 17 goals, 37 assists for 54 points. And I believe they actually traded for him back from Washington. And in Washington, he never really played very good. Not bad. He was just like, you know, third line guy. And then he went to Vegas and his numbers got up a bit. And this year, he has been very good. Now, the reason I don't think Stephenson will be able to continue this point pace, he has been able to have elevated minutes, elevated ice time on a higher line, playing with better players because Mark Stone's been gone, Pacioretty's been gone, Eichel was gone for a while. They've been dealing with so many injuries that Stephenson at one point was that first line guy, and I definitely think that contributed to his point totals. So yeah, thank you guys for watching if you are still here, and I hope you enjoyed this video. This video took what, like, I don't know how long it took to record. I had to do a couple takes, as in like do some of it, then do the other part, because, you know, it takes a bit. But yeah, I had to stop for my dog at one point. He was eating some stuff that he probably shouldn't have been eating, you know. I was going to show him, but I'll see dog another day. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. See ya. Take the hat off as usual.